Hello, welcome everybody. I hope you all are having a wonderful Easter weekend. My name is Sam Barker, and I'm in Dr. Johnson's class about educating exceptional students. And my project today is titled Educational Strategies for Exceptional Students. Once again, I hope you all are having a wonderful Easter. I'm doing this on Easter morning. Just got back from church, so I hope you all are having a wonderful weekend as well. So before I begin, let's first talk about some exceptional students. What makes students exceptional? These students are any students that need significantly increased assistance in learning. Students that are going to take a little bit more, possibly hands-on approach, possibly more time, but definitely some severely differentiated instruction. Not just your normal differentiate, not just a high or low learner, but someone that's going to take a significantly increased assistance in their learning. And here are a couple examples. These are going to include learning disabled and physically disabled students. Autistic students, or rather any students on the autism spectrum would fall under an exceptional student. Students with learning disabilities, these are significant learning disabilities. Some students have the inability to walk. This creates an interesting dynamic for their learning process if we think about it. I mean, we take walking for granted, but definitely an exceptional student. And then blindness, deafness, and muteness, all of these abilities that we just take for granted, we have to reevaluate how we teach these students. So all of these students, this is not an exhaustive list, but students that would be considered exceptional students. Okay, so these are some reasons for differentiation, reasons for teaching these students, reasons that we have to differentiate between the two. One is that these exceptional students know that they can succeed. So often they feel as if they can't. They feel as if their hands are tied. They feel as if they've just been dealt a bad hand or whatever. But they need to know that they can succeed. They also need to know that they are loved. They are loved just so much that they, in order for students and children in general to grow into adults, they have to have that love piece. They have to know that they are surrounded by people that care about them, that want to see them succeed, that want to push them, that want to love them. They need to know that. And they also need to know that they are very important members of society. They contribute just as much as their non-exceptional peers. They contribute to society just as much. They can have jobs. They can have very important placements throughout their society. They can contribute in ways sometimes that their non-exceptional peers wouldn't be able to. So very important members of society. So now I'm going to talk about some obstacles that teachers will encounter when they're teaching exceptional students. These obstacles are they may have a unique twist. They may look a little bit different on a case-by-case basis, but they have a very these obstacles are very widespread, very common when dealing with exceptional students. One of these is reading comprehension problems, and this can come from a severe learning disability where reading comprehension is just not very. It's very difficult for the student. So this is a problem. This is a hurdle that teachers have to jump over. But also at the same time, when you think about a blind student, how are you going to teach a blind student to read? You're going to have to come up, obviously, with a different form of teaching them that through Braille, through other means. But that's a very, very big problem that a blind student is going to have. How can they comprehend the information that they gather? Because that's really what we're looking for with reading comprehension. Another one is mathematics computation difficulties. For exceptional students, oftentimes it is very difficult for them to grasp certain mathematical concepts, especially for learning disabled students. These two, reading and math, seem to be two of the most difficult things for students to wrap their head around when they have these exceptionalities, when they have these learning disabilities. It's very difficult for them to do these rote computations that people are so used to with mathematics. And then another obstacle that will be encountered is physical limitations. We need to assign our classrooms to maximize the students' ability to success who are physically disabled. We really need to think about that. Okay, now we're going to talk about overcoming some obstacles. And overcoming reading obstacles is the first thing I want to talk about. One strategy that I looked at that was very successful and also makes a whole lot of sense is have students write down in their own words the passages that they read. And so if you come across a student with a exceptionality or any student that is having a hard time doing reading comprehension, have them write down in their own words what they just read. This is kind of putting down on paper what we want them to eventually be able to get into their head. That reading comprehension piece. Very successful strategy I've seen. Another thing is to slow down assignments to exceptional learners. A lot of times it's not that exceptional learners or students with learning disabilities have an impossibility to read and to comprehend. It's just a lot of times they do it very inefficiently. It's not that they can't do it, it's that they do it inefficiently. So extra time simply is just often a better way to keep them with the rest of the group, as opposed to just pushing on, leaving them in the dust, leaving them feeling hopeless. Very good strategy. Also provide some extra time for students that need it. This falls straight into slowing down your assignments, slowing down your lectures, and also providing a little bit extra time for those students. A great way to differentiate your classroom. Okay, now in mathematics, some strategies arise in overcoming obstacles in mathematics. One big strategy was grouping students so that the grouping students with differing abilities with each other, and so that allows for the exceptional students that are struggling to see how it's done from their peers' perspective. It allows the students that understand the material to communicate their understanding to other students. And it also allows teamwork. And so those three things are huge. Those are things that we want students that not only know material, to be able to communicate the material and be able to do the material with each other, to overcome obstacles with each other. That's what the workplace looks like. So great strategy for incorporating exceptional students that are struggling with math into the classroom with each other. And also provide systematic processes. A lot of time mathematics it gets a bad reputation for being so ambiguous. How did you get this? Where did you go from there? All of this stuff that is just so confusing. And so if you provide a systematic process for students to follow, step 1, do this, step 2, do this, step 3, do this, that'll build the framework up, that strong background that they need for the mathematics, and then the generalization that we want them to learn, that's very important, that will follow. But you have to have a framework, the systematic step-by-step process. You have to have that for these students to succeed in math. Also, chunk lessons into smaller pieces. Enough of this lecturing for 45 minutes, giving them a worksheet and say, do this. Chunk these lessons into smaller pieces separated by student work. Great way to help these mathematically illiterate students. Great way to help them keep up. Okay, so now overcoming some physical limitations. These are ones that it took me a little bit to think about because I take it for granted so often, and I need to not as a teacher. But they need to understand that not all students are physically able. Not all students can get up and go to the bathroom when they need to. Not all students can even get into the classroom. Not all students can raise their hand when they have a question. See, there's these things that we set up that assumes every student we're going to teach is going to be able to do these basic physical functions, but that's not true all the time. And it's unfair to make those students that can't physically do these things just not be able to learn. No, that's not. So the first thing we need to do as teachers is understand that not all students are physically able. And we need to then rearrange our classroom so that all students can access resources and materials. If a student has a particularly hard time accessing these resources that we have provided them, then they're not going to access them. They're going to go, it's too much work, it's too hard for me. And again, it'll just lead into kind of this despair type feeling, and we don't want that. We don't want that at all for our students. Also, change teaching strategies to include physically disabled students, and like the raising your hand. If you have a question, please raise your hand. What about the students that can't raise their hand? That's not really. It's not really fair for them. So change your teaching strategies. Change how you run your classroom to include these physically disabled students. Another huge thing, just absolutely massive, one of the probably single most important things when dealing with exceptional students, learning disabled students, and the like, are these IEPs, the Individualized Education Plan. These are huge, absolutely massive. Great that we're doing it. Great way to differentiate. Great way to have everything on paper. Everybody on the same page. Parents, faculty, staff, teachers, and the student all come together, agree on this plan. How can we individualize the education for this student? It's great. The single most important piece of differentiation for exceptional students, absolutely. It is a legally binding document, and it provides the faculty and staff the ability to uniquely provide a plan. And this plan can include any amount of strategies, any amounts of differentiation that the teacher thinks the student needs. Does the student need more time? Does the student need read aloud tests? Does the student need less stimulus in the classroom? Does the student need, whatever the student needs, we put it in here. Everybody stacks hands on it, and we agree that it's the best for the student. IEP is a very big part of this whole process. And like I said, you can incorporate so many strategies that helps the students learn, just so many strategies. And it really does help the student out a lot. If everybody's on board, it really is good for their education. And so, once again, why are we doing this? Why do we care so much about reaching out to the margins of our classrooms? And the reason being is because these students are so different, and they're going to learn so differently, and we have to provide that differentiation for them. If a student is not learning the way that I teach, then I need to learn to teach the way that they can learn. It's not the other way around. I need to change my instruction, because these exceptional students, man, they can go out and they can do so much. And they're just going to need help that maybe looks different, which is absolutely fine. We all need help. We're all different. So that's why we're doing this. Thank you all for paying attention. Thank you all for your time. Here are my resources, and I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.